Welcome to part 2. Let's continue where we left off, shall we? I also think that clothing optional in many clubs has been particularly responsible for the decline in naturism. Here again I disagree with Skinner. Naturism is going back to the more fundamental philosophy, is not a desperate attempt by a movement that is losing support and feels under threat. An aspiration to be more inclusive has been the motivation behind the clothing optional movement in recent decades. But it backfires because the creative clubs have lost their reason for being. It's watered down the core philosophy. People seem to have forgotten that naturism a lot more than just taking your clothes off. It's a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social and moral benefits. I completely agree with him on the notion that it has so many benefits and that it should be encouraged. And I can see where he's coming from when he says it's watered down. However, I don't think that clothing optional clubs are forgetting, per se, really about what is what naturism is really about. The philosophy is still there. The acceptance is still there. The stereotype of elderly people are, very grouchy, very out of touch with the youth, very unfriendly and have a lot of disdain for youth. However, in naturist clubs it couldn't be more different. A lot of residents are elderly, yes. You get young people there as well, yes. And you get groups of young people like the ones I'm with. And, these are very open people, they are very accepting people, and they are very friendly people each and every time. They are always very accepting and always just wanting, very, caring. I mean, I've unfortunately had the misfortune to lose my CD player last time I went there because I've got rotten luck, and they did everything they could to try and find where it went, and I gave them my phone number and they did ring me back to ask if I'd found it. And so I don't really think that the core philosophy has really gone away or is being compromised by clothing optional, because there are still wonderfully accepting people who will not look at you two ways or not look at you differently just because you don't have any clothes on. They really don't care, and they're happy with it. This is a great encouragement when you see, people being nude but nobody making a fuss about it, because that is what scares people. Being ridiculed and being outcasted for, not being, the social norm, and, not being accepted because of, their dress state. In our society, we have to be clothed if we want to be accepted at all. And naturism is throwing that idea out the window. We accept people based on the kind of person that they are, no dress state, matters whatsoever. And so, I still think that philosophy, even in clothing optional clubs, is alive and well. Anyway, where was I? People join naturist clubs because they want to find a better way. They're looking for much more than just a place where they don't have to wear a bathing suit. And that's not just a theory. We took over the park when there was clothing optional in less than 3 years. Membership has grown to 136 to over 400. Most of the new members have never belonged to any naturist club before, and about half are young people in their 30s. On top of that, the rate of growth increasing every year. So in my opinion, naturism at Ayr Oaks Family Naturist Park cannot be clothing optional because we are a life philosophy. Naturism is about philosophy of life. It's a way of thinking, acting, looking at the rest of the world. We are fostering respect for self, for others, and the environment. Complete nudity is fundamental to those values. That is true. That is very true. And I remember Stephen saying in the podcast that they do allow new people to stay dressed for a little while in certain places, and take time to adjust or themselves, but they have to be respectful to, other people. And I don't necessarily think it's always disrespect for people to be clothed among others. When I went to the Naturist Club with the YBN at Colchester, I believe it was, the Springwood Naturist Club, a few of the girls there, when they were playing sports, they wanted to be fully dressed. They could have just put a bra on if it was uncomfortable for the rest of the evening doing something while playing sport. However, they felt more comfortable when doing active activities that they, one or two, felt better dressed. And I didn't really understand this. However, I wouldn't say that they were disrespecting anyone. I think they were being perfectly respectful. If they were disrespecting people, then they would not be, accepting others, and they would be pressuring others to be clothed as well, and they'd be trying to foster a textile environment. And they were not doing this at all, and they were perfectly happy to sunbathe nude and walk around nude as they pleased. And everyone swam nude as well. So, I'm not necessarily sure that I don't think that, just because it's clothing option, and sometimes in some situations some people may prefer to be dressed, it's not really a disrespect, but maybe the attitudes are different in Canada, and maybe the standards are different, and maybe people react differently than they do to here in the UK. Fighting powerful social conditioning. Even the most long-time naturists still harbour some discomfort with nudity in certain situations. Excuse me a moment. Sorry. When it's dancing, eating at a restaurant, or sitting in a certain position, many of us still feel that discomfort. Because the incessant outside influences mentioned above, nobody is making a truly free choice when they opt to stay clothed. This I can agree with for a lot of textiles. They say they choose to be clothed, that they feel more comfortable in clothes. However, is it really their choice? Are they really comfortable with themselves and would just prefer to be clothed? Or is it the fear that's talking? Is it the inherent discomfort that we are all taught to feel from a very early age that, is influencing this idea? Would you say that people who are afraid of flying just prefer to take the train? Or would they really be, is it really something that's influencing their decisions subconsciously and stopping them from flying? What is it? In a social experiment we call naturism, we must help all people become comfortable in bodies in all situations. There are men in naturist clubs who wear shorts when they're walking because they feel more comfortable. Is this a physical comfort or is it a psychological comfort? A naturist woman once asserted that she felt more feminine with a wrap on. How can she view a piece of cloth as more feminine than her own natural form? When asked why she wraps the towel so tightly around her waist, a naturist young man explained it was the most convenient way to carry it. I saw this at Alton Towers a lot. Some people were just wrapping the towels round the waist while I carried it on my shoulder all the time. And you could just wrap it round your waist in like a band rather than having to cover anything, but maybe that's just me. Is wrapping round easier than throwing it over your shoulder? Is it convenience or rationalisation? In all the examples above, the individuals truly believe what they are saying. The unconscious mind is tremendously adept in rationalising the reasons for the emotional discomfort created by nudity. Join me in part 3 where we shall round this off.